everybody. Welcome to episode 92 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin. Who are the mics with me tonight?
Back from the dead, Michael K. Hughes.
And I'm Mike Fallek, being told derogatorily to call himself Guest Mike. The insult level of Guest Mike. Oh my gosh.
That's what happens when you have
it's like
Mike,
it's like
Mike,
you know
Mike.
Sister Wives. You know Sister Wives. It would be like if one of them called me, "These are my sister wives," and this one is the crappy wife. Like that's how it feels to me right now, being called Guest Mike. Yeah. This is like, you know, I've had this in history too, where like I'm a younger brother. So it's like they always call younger brothers the lesser or the minor. And I'm like, screw you guys. Like, whatever. You're lesser. I'm not lesser. You're lesser.
It's just like when you have a friend come over to play games, you got to use the nice first party controllers and they have to use like the Mad Catz one that lights up.
You know, I would always give people the cooler controller when I had people over to game. Now, there's two sides to that. One, the big era of me giving people controllers because of my childhood was like the PlayStation 1 and 2 era. And the cooler looking ones were usually worse. Like the EA Sports ones that were like white. It's like, that's not a good controller, but they can have it. But I would always give the other person the cooler controller. I really would. I never did that. I would always, and then I feel like those people, I'm sorry. I'm having like a lot of emotions right now because I was called Guest Mike and I'm Guest Mike. Anyway.
Makes you the GM though. You're Guest Mike. You're the GM.
I am the GM. Everyone roll.
And before we go too far,
just roll. Everyone start rolling. I want to play already.
Oh, Mike, where people might know you from?
I am currently the creator of a project called #cult.org. We are investigating red pill cults, one of which is MGTOW. We have a podcast called #Cult Podcast. We're trying to sort of change the internet to stop people from scapegoating their emotions into kind of hateful groups, like red pill groups and all those different things. You also know me from a much more fun show called Hack Thought Podcast, which is about like just stupid stuff, like dumb things, like whether or not pepper should be on tables. My number one like cause. A hack thought is a thought you don't think to think about. Should pepper be on tables? Absolutely not.
I agree with that. Should not.
It makes no sense in the world. Those are my two things.
Hey, but during COVID, there's no pepper or salt on the tables anymore. So.
Oh, one of the big benefits that I don't have to watch other people eat. Oh, it's amazing. So there's some good things. You just have to look on the bright side. I have not seen someone like eat a sandwich or stir their coffee. I can't tell you how disgusting I find. I put stuff in my coffee. I don't want to watch other people stir their coffee in little cauldrons spilling. It's like watching someone click something on a computer. It's like everyone else is always doing it much worse than you. Like you want to like click for them. Like, no, move the mouse this way. I hate watching people. Anyway, this is about video games, right?
Sometimes, yes. And co-host Mike, you want to introduce what we're going to be talking about tonight?
We're talking about 1993/94's Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Gensis.
All right. Where do you get 93 from, by the way?
The original Wikipedia said it came out here in 93, but this other Wikipedia says it's 94 everywhere, so...
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay.
We'll go with 94.
I'm going to go with the Castlevania.
Is it not crazy how, Nerds Without Pants, another podcast that we both enjoy, has experienced this as well. How insane is it that a digital media, and recording on a digital media, people are like, I don't know when this game came out.
Well, hey, got two different things on there.
Like it's a consummate problem. Just like some year, it's like you made a computer program and you wrote it on a computer. How do you not know when it came out? It's a serious issue. It indicates where we are in the world.
Well, in the 90s, like they didn't really keep track of. Like I know, like Mario, they don't even know exactly when Mario came out in America because they didn't really. It wasn't keeping track of it first.
That's bonkers to me. That's crazy.
They have it narrowed down, but I don't think they know the exact date that it came out in like New York where it was test market or when it came out everywhere else. Like it just wasn't stuff that was nobody cared. And it's like, to me, it's just weird. Like anytime you're going to release a product, well, I don't care if it's the 60s, 70s, or 80s, you think you'd have everything kind of written down. Like, hey, this is when we launched. This is what our sales are. This is what's happening. Just so you can, make important decisions. Like, it's just stupid to me.
Like, file your taxes. Like, what are we doing?
It's only for the poor to file taxes. The rich, they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, Mario doesn't pay taxes.
That's Yoshi. Yoshi's a tax evader, right? For some reason.
Is he?
For some reason.
I don't know, some joke that went
Yeah.
online for a while that Yoshi was evading his taxes.
Well, it sounds hilarious. All right, let's move on to like good stuff, not memes.
This game surprised me. I actually didn't even know this game existed until I got into emulation some years back, and I first found it on an emulator site, and I was like, "What the hell is a Castlevania game on a Genesis?"
I knew Castlevania Rogue, whatever, that they just remade or made a sequel to. That was on Genesis. I knew that one.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Rogue Core? No, Castlevania Hardcore. Excuse me.
Okay, Contra Hardcore.
Contra
Contra-
Hardcore.
What am I saying?
Oh, you had me very
Contra
confused. I'm
Hardcore.
like, I know it's a
meant
Castlevania game.
Wow, I meant to start talking about Contra and other things from the same people. Anyway, cut that out, people.
It's all Konami.
Castlevania? Yeah, I know. I was trying to talk about other Konami-ish, and something went wrong.
They had a few. They weren't. I feel like they weren't as big in the Genesis as they were in the Super Nintendo. At least not as well known. But you are right. They did bring the Contra series over with Hard Corps. They brought the Turtle series over with Hyperstone Heist. You had this game.
It's kind of surprising, given how like visceral and bloody that Contra and Castlevania are. That you think they'd be more at home on Genesis, since Nintendo is very anti that kind of stuff in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but actually, when you think about it, how bloody are Contra and Castlevania?
Enough that Europe turned everyone into robots for the Contra releases.
Yeah.
Well, but like no one bleeds in Contra.
Yeah, everyone just
No one-
explodes.
Yeah, no one bleeds in Castlevania, even though it's there's no blood in a game about vampires. Like, and especially the ones that are on Nintendo, there's no blood. Now, the goriest detail of Castlevanias, and this is my theory, and I have introduced this to the internet. I'm happy to share it right now. In terms of gore, is you find meat in the walls, right? Now, my theory has been for a long time that during that era, Dracula and whatnot, catacombs were a very big thing. And perhaps in order to beat Dracula, the Belmonts partake in some dark magic and are eating dead human bodies. Perhaps dead vampire bodies, old relatives of Dracula that give them some sort of... Because why would eating meat give you health? Why would there be meat in the walls?
You put more thought in this than I have ever had.
The thing is, when you play a Castlevania game, you're watching like the same thing for ever. So like I've been playing some Castlevania games, like Castlevania 1, I've been playing for like 6 years and haven't beaten. Like
It's a hard game.
Yeah, like so all you have to think about is I'm the worst, I'm a failure, jump, jump, jump. Okay, what is the meat in the wall? So that's other than that, nothing else happened.
I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I never really thought about it. It never even dawned on me to think about that concept. I was like, okay, but you know,
I've got more. You want to hear more? The chain whip. Those are chandelier chains. Why else would you whip a candlelight and get chains?
Okay, I can buy that.
Yeah,
I can buy that.
Not the catacombs one that they're eating vampires in order to get kept in the catacombs of Dracula's house in order to get power, challenging their dark. Do you want to talk about this game or just all the theories I have?
It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well as Wall Chicken, though.
Yeah,
No,
but
I can
no
buy
one
it, though.
keeps
I'll
chicken
buy
in
it.
the wall. Just to make me happy because I'm guest Mike. Because
Well, no, because you do have. I mean, it's something I never have thought about. I never want to think about after this conversation, but I can see it. Like, you know, I mean, you are right. Like, you eat a chicken, you don't all of a sudden feel healthier. You just don't feel hungry. And the Sims have taught us anything.
Sometimes
Your
you feel
hunger level
worse.
goes down.
yeah, you feel worse. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The flesh of vampire stuffed in
I
the
mean,
walls.
But that's one thing is so like this game, I do have to say, like this game, this setting really grabbed me. One, I love World War I, World War II. And this game takes place in 1917, I want to say, during World War I. And I think that is so damn cool because that is a part of history that not a lot of fiction likes to tie itself to for some reason, even though I think World War I is super damn interesting. But for some reason, a lot of people stay away from it.
In this era too, in the 90s, this was a big thing in heavy metal.
1897.
Well, yeah, well, I'm saying in the 1990s when this game was made.
right.
Wasn't made in the 1890s. Who knows?
No,
Wikipedia could say it came out in 1890s.
No, what I was trying to
Whatever.
say is 1917 is the World War I. 1897 is when Dracula was killed by Quincy Morris, which is before this game, which is the Dracula novel.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
They brought the Dracula novel tie into the story of the Castlevania. Sorry. And if you want to go on what you were saying after I interrupted.
No. I'm big into the actual Dracula book. It's one of my favorite. And by the way, the original Dracula book is about a romance novel. So stop making fun of Twilight. But anyway, it's set between love letters between two people. But the World War One at this time, in the era of like horror and stuff, was huge. You know, you had a lot of horror animators and horror comic book writers doing World War One. So I also was like shocked to see the World War One stuff, and then was like, okay, this is like, I get it for the era and all those different things. Also, a map that like correlates with something struck a chord with me. This is set like you see like a proper map of Europe. I don't know that in any other Castlevania game. I don't know. Is it Transylvania? Like when you're looking at the map in the overworld, like is that an accurate map? I've never thought to look at it.
I've never looked at it to give that much thought.
But this game distinguishes itself with being very distinct. Like, oh wow, that's Europe.
Because this game also is the
damn near every other Castlevania game just takes place in or around the castle. This is the first time you're like globetrotting, so to speak.
You don't usually do that in Castlevania.
Yeah. So but maybe it is like maybe somebody took a map of where Cassiula's Dracula was, where Dracula's castle was, and was like, here, bring that into the game, you know, because I know these people liked, you know, there's all these references to the book and all these different things, and that's a tourist destination. I now want to go back and like look again. It's these things that surprisingly there's nothing to do in Castlevania. It's so hard usually that like it's so shocking that these few details have escaped me. What does the map actually represent in Dracula? I mean, in Castlevania.
I think it's just the castle. I mean, 3 would be the only one where you're really traveling up the countryside, because in 1, you're right in the castle. 2, I don't think has a map. 4 is just a remake of 1. So yeah, only 3 would be the only one I can think of, and even then, it's mostly just the grounds around the castle.
Yeah, but there's maps for everything. There's maps for stuff. They're allowed to make maps. You don't have to be a country. Like, there's no map license. It might be a real map of like Dracula's castle. I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. And also wall chicken.
The one map I did find is from Castlevania 3, and it just shows the castle and has a different type of items that you would go to around the castle.
Cool.
But again, it's not an official map. I can't find the one from the game as we're speaking, because when you search Castlevania maps, it comes up with the maps of the levels, not the map that I want. So, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. The internet is much more difficult than it should be, isn't it?
Sometimes, yes. Especially when you're trying to do a podcast, you're looking for a particular thing on a conversation. You're like, all right, it's very frustrating when someone's making a claim about it and you have no evidence to tell them they're wrong. Like, so I should just keep making the claim. Which is I did find the map of 3. Okay. It is just the castle, and it shows the things around the castle. So it's like a very small area of the country, so you couldn't really know if it was anything like that.
Yeah, but why are we traveling? Is that ever mentioned?
Yes.
Yeah, you're chasing Elizabeth Bartley as she's going around Europe trying to tap into all the powers of darkness to resurrect Dracula.
And
so wait, is that Wikipedia or is that on like a screen that I saw?
It's in the intro screen if you don't press start.
Oh, yeah, no, because I'm very frustrated and want to start playing the game again. Obviously, I'm going to press start.
And I want to say, I'm going to make a wild claim myself. I want to say Elizabeth Bartley is based on a real character.
In the books?
No, in real life, it's based on some psychopath, if I remember correctly. But I think I'm trying to think if Elizabeth Bartley's supposed to be based on the count. There was some countess that would kill virgins and bathe in her blood. That was crazy. Then got murdered. But I'm trying. I don't know if that's what they base this on or not. I started to make that claim, but then it didn't work out so well. Yes.
Vampire Countess Elizabeth Bartley is loosely based on the actual historical figure. Oh boy, Elizabeth Bathory.
Countess Elizabeth Bathory inspired numerous stories and fairy tales, says Wikipedia, in the 18th and 19th century. The most common motifs of these work was that the Countess was bathing in her victim's blood in order to retain their youth.
Yes.
Yeah, but here's what nobody talks about when they say this stuff. Like, did it work, though? Did she look young? Like, I know it's horrible and whatever, but, like, that was 200 years ago. Did it work? Because, like, did it work? Like, whatever. We all can't be young forever, but maybe a little bit of blood would help. 1729 is the first time a Jesuit scholar named, get ready for a name, Laszlo Turok III. It's not that, but I'm just saying it's Laszlo Turok III. This might be a legend that came up because of misogyny. So I'm good for now. Anyway, does blood make you young? No one really answers that question.
What do you want to? I'm sure somebody knows that answer.
Elizabeth.
You got to go to the dark web for that.
The red web. Okay, also, while we're on like just pedantic issues, as someone that's played a bunch of Castlevanias, the password system, a little bit better. Sucks that there is one, but a little bit better. You guys are emulating. Did you actually use it at all?
No. Not. I saw them.
So Castlevania in general has a better password system than most games because of the symbols and things like that, and it makes it a little bit less annoying to write down. And especially in the age of phones, like it's just so easy to take a photo. This has a very intuitive thing where instead of having to, this game doesn't employ the select button, which a lot of the Nintendo games do. Instead, you kind of use a button to move from side to side to choose the symbol, and then another button enters it. So it actually makes it like fairly easy if you have it written down to almost not even look at your game space there, the password screen.
I can see that. Yeah. I unfortunately never played the real cartridge. I didn't know it existed until way later. I
feel like I read this at some point. So I definitely played it when I was younger, but I don't know how I would have.
I have something to say about cartridges and emulations before we go on, because I'll say right now, later, and before we go on, I'll say this. I bought a fake cartridge, which I have never bought in my game collection before, so that I could play this. So I don't actually know if I'm playing the original or a ROM put onto what is very clearly a pirated, quote-unquote, reproduction.
Probably a ROM. But even then, the ROM is the same game.
Yeah, so there's even in emulations because I checked out because I wanted to know about you criminals on this show to experience it the same way. Even the ROMs are slightly different where you go, and the emulations are slightly different. So it's hard to know whether someone edited maybe something like that to make it work on a ROM. But this is my first pirated disc, pirated cartridge. I mean, it was there was not music in places. I'm pretty sure there's music. But other than that, it played really well, actually. It played better than some real cartridges.
Can actually, like, one thing nice, they actually did re-release this game not too long ago on the Castlevania Arcade Collection for PS4 and PC and Xbox.
And Steam, too.
Yeah, I have it, but it doesn't have save state, so I bought it, so I own it, but I cannot play it because I need save states. Because I would have never gotten out of stage 2 probably, or stage 3 of this game if I didn't have save states, because fuck this game
really?
After a bit.
Really? Okay, so where did other Michael, co-host Michael the First? Mm-hmm. We are Borg, okay? Borg, where did you get when just like in playing this game even without save states? Where could you get to?
I didn't start abusing save states until like the munitions factory thing, stage 4-ish.
Stage 4.
Wow.
Man, it gets tough. It gets tough real quick.
I also started using save states and a guide at around stage 4. I could not get past. I wanted to do this different than I have like an affliction with playing games where it's like I have to play it exactly the same way that it was played during the era. I have to not look stuff up. I have to not use a guide. As long as I
surge.
Yeah, I got to get my surge. I have to think about whether or not I like this Bill Clinton fella. It's just all about being in that era. And like for me, I try and like get that, but you guys kind of inspired me to be like, okay, you want to, Michael, as this weird art historian kind of person, you have to have it the way it was at the time in order to understand it. Like, but these people on this show enjoy it in this totally different way, and you are ignorant to it. So I made this real concerted effort to be like, I'm going to use a guide. I'm going to use an emulator at some point, try it out, do save states. Even though I bought I'm going to buy a fake cartridge. Like, I'm going to do everything the way that you guys did it. And it was fascinating because I could beat this game. I actually think it's easier than a lot of other Castlevanias. I actually think it's quite forgiving, except for
easier than Rondo, but that's not saying a lot.
I haven't played. I have Rondo.
Or Dracula X. Dracula X for Super Nintendo is a bitch.
Well, they're all incredibly difficult. They're all incredible.
Dracula X, that final boss fight with Dracula, you fight him on pillars where he can knock you off the pillars and kill you instantly. It is ridiculous. We'll get there someday.
But like even Castlevania 1, a lot of people are like, oh man, Castlevania classic, like, you're going through the clockwork and the gears and stuff. It's like, I've barely in 6 years, I just got to that level. So like, I do feel like there's this thing with old games where people don't want to admit like, yeah, I've never been to that part of the game. I only know it from like an internet video.
Oh, I'll admit right there, all those games, I've played 3 multiple times in my life and I've never gotten anywhere in it. It's just too damn hard.
3 is brutal. And me beating and like I got to not Dracula, like there's a giant bat towards the end, I want to say. Like, it's ridiculous. And so for this, I was like, I'm going to use a guide. I'm going to use save states. I got to level 2-3 on my own. Then I had to use a guide. I could not beat the levels without a guide. I went through a walkthrough the whole time. And then I got to level 4-1 and started using save states. I stopped playing at level 5. I have it opened up right here. 5, 8.
So the game broke you.
5 something. 5 something. 5, 6 or 8. But yeah, it was a totally different experience. I did not feel transported to the time.
You also give us a lot of credit to say that we like playing it that way. It's more like we have to because we have to get this done and start on next week's game, or else we're still going to be on the weapons factory in level 4 forever.
Yeah, this show will be a little different. Like, well, how was the ending? Well, I don't know. I couldn't beat this level.
but I'm so impressed by that like for me, like, you guys asked me to play a game and I had to play the game. Like, it is very impressive that you sort of, as a podcast producer, to make guests, like, not make, for me, it's a pleasure, but like that you find guests who are willing to be like, I have homework, a significant amount of homework.
That can be difficult with certain games. There's been a couple where I had to ask people and they're like, what? You want me? They're like, you have a hard, some people do not want to play a certain game, like Parasite Eve 2. That was a tough one.
My first episode was Operation Raccoon City, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what even is that game is the question.
Not Resident Evil.
It's a third-person action survival horror game.
I haven't heard that up yet, and now I can and be all educated on that thing, Raccoon People.
It's I don't. It's one of those games where I enjoyed it a lot in 2010. I went back and played it in 2019. I went, oh no.
Yeah, less so much.
So did you enjoy this game?
Castlevania, yeah.
Yeah.
I did. One thing about this Castlevania I think is also so interesting that we haven't touched on yet is that it has 2 playable characters, which Castlevania games don't normally. You have Eric Lecard, who's using the Alucard spear, and you have John Morris, related to Quincy Morris from the Dracula novel, who's using the vampire killer whip. You have no Belmonts in this game. And I don't know, it's never explained in this game, like the timeline of what happened. I can tell you now because I have watched way too much videos about a guy that tells the entire Castlevania timeline.
I still haven't watched that.
It's good.
I love that stuff. I love that kind of stuff. Like Halo, I never pay attention to the lore. I could watch some dork explain Halo lore.
If you want to see
hours.
Castlevania lore, and this is anyone listening, Gamer Thumb TV on YouTube, he does a timeline thing of the whole Castlevania series, and it is pretty accurate from the sound of it. And it's really damn good. Like it will go in everything. Like, the reason why there's no Belmont is because after Richter Belmont in Symphony of the Night ends up kind of turning to the dark side for a bit there, the whip then gets cursed and they cannot use it anymore. And whoever uses the whip will die at an early age. And that's why John Morris is not in the next sequel to this game, because the whip ends up draining his. After this adventure, and he kills and he fights Dracula and he kills Elizabeth, he doesn't survive everything afterwards. It cuts his life short.
Gun to my head. This is how I play old games differently than other people. I don't know who the hell any Belmonts are. I've never seen that name in the game. It's never mentioned in between levels. All I know is guy in skirt with in any of them. I don't ever see that name. Okay, here's what I do. The game starts, I press start, and I get frustrated. I don't know who anyone is. I've never heard the name Belmont. I've never seen that on screen because I've never beaten the game. Maybe it says it then.
I don't think it does. Not NES. You'd have to play other Castlevania games, such like Portrait of Ruin. There it would say it for sure. And the Symphony Night, the better Castlevania game.
Yeah, I have yet to play Symphony of the Night, which I'm very excited. I played so many Castlevanias, and it's all just the frustrating ones. I have yet to play the ones where it's like chill, which is why I loved this game. I thought it was a really easy time. I played on normal. I thought you could like actually enjoy it and get far, and like I thought it was really fair, except for no continues, which is ridiculous. Yeah. That was insane.
I can see that being really, because you only get 5 lives. I mean, you can get extra with points that nobody cares about, but it's not
the oddest way to do the Konami code I've ever seen.
It's in this game?
It is in this game. You must change the settings, and then in the settings menu, do the Konami code, and then you will get. I could never get it to work, but it apparently does exist.
Huh. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that was there. I didn't care either, but I didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I just played through this game. I actually beat this game twice for the show.
Really? How?
I save state.
Oh.
I mean, I wouldn't have beat otherwise. I wanted to go through each character. Each character is very, very different, though.
The one with the whip is very bad, isn't he?
He's stronger. He can take more damage, but he can't hit up when he's standing still. He can only hit diagonally.
Yeah.
Which Lecard can, if he's standing still, you can't jump, but you can strike up. I tried jumping and striking up, and that does not work, unfortunately. But I don't know. They both have their. Neither one is easier, I would say. Oh,
I found the other guy, who has the spear.
Lecard.
Yeah. I thought he was much easier to use. I found it like the range and like I don't know, something about that super jump. There's this move you have in this game that I'm certain is in no other Castlevania I've played.
It's not.
Where you have a kind of attacking upward super jump make certain levels, like the one with the clockwork. Like, did you guys do that on those levels?
Oh, yeah.
I did not. I jumped
Super
in all
jump
normal.
all the way up, and it's just like done, bored, go.
I did not play that way like I probably should have.
It's
I
like
didn't think about it.
Mario Brothers 2 where you hold down to charge up the jump, and then you can do a super jump.
Just go through the whole level, yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
This game also has 3D.
It works. Like, I mean, as Mike, as co-host Mike said before the show, or earlier when we were talking, he's like, it doesn't have the, God, what the hell is that thing in Super Nintendo?
Mode 7.
Mode 7, but it has what you call mode 3.5. Because it tries to get that 3D effect where things are moving behind you and around you, but it's not the same as what the Super Nintendo can do.
Now I was actually referring to, there's a gear monster, and that is actually...
Oh, yeah.
God,
That's such a Sega thing. Like, it instantly made me think of Gunstar Heroes. They do that constantly.
Did you ever play, man, I'm going to forget the name of this game that I just played. Hold on.
Vector Man?
Light Crusade. No, not Vector Man. Obviously, I have nightmares about Vector Man, the worst game ever. Did you ever play Light Crusader?
That sounds familiar. I don't think I've played it.
That's one of my favorite Sega games right now. I'm big into Genesis. And like Light Crusader is a isometric sort of dungeon crawlery type game, and there's a lot of bosses that look like that.
Okay. I've never heard of this before.
Oh. I think I might have played some of this.
It looks interesting.
It's good. It's good. This is definitely a really good game for the Genesis, if I'm being honest. Like, the Genesis has a lot of rip and tear and all that kind of stuff, but like this plays like a Super Nintendo game, not Light Crusader. Light Crusader definitely plays like a Genesis game, but this Castlevania plays like a Super Nintendo game, and it's a different experience playing it on a Genesis. I liked it a lot.
It's just cool that there was a Castlevania game on Genesis. I mean, I just can't get over how I had no idea this game existed until emulation. Like, and I had a Genesis. I bought Genesis games at the local Funko-Land, but I just never knew about this game. I found that interesting.
Where were you game? Because I was a baby. I was 2 years old when this game came out. So I think where were you game wise when this game came out?
I was born in '87, so I was old enough.
So I can't. I'm really bad with year math. So did you own a Genesis when this game came out or no?
I can't remember. I know I had a Genesis in the '90s, but I don't remember when. I had Super Nintendo first. I don't remember when I got a Genesis though.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the idea of going back in time and understanding the marketing.
I just know that I had my Genesis was all based on games that my buddy had. Like, he liked Sonic a lot, so I knew those Sonic games. He liked the Jungle Strike series, so I played Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, Desert Strike. I played stuff like that. He wouldn't have been into something like this. I never would have seen it, but I don't think I remember even seeing it at a Funko-Land or anything. Like, it just wasn't something that I noticed, which is the part that kind of baffles me, because I was at Funko-Land a lot.
I don't know. I don't know what like it's definitely seems like something they would embrace, in advertising, being like, look, we have like a different Castlevania game and all those different things. I don't know why. I don't know why that would happen.
That's Konami. We've learned the last few years they don't make the best decisions.
But as we were talking about earlier, like how this game has you progress through Europe, I do want to say how all the levels are like different. Like, the first level starts off in a Romania castle of Dracula from a previous I want to say from the book, and they're going to go find Dracula, but he's not there. You fight some other random monsters, and then you're chasing after Elizabeth Bartley as she's running across Europe during World War I. And I think that is just so damn cool. Like level 4, we've been talking about off and on, is a munition factory in Germany, where, for those that don't know, World War I, Germany is kind of considered the villain, sort of. They are not, but they are considered the villain of World War I because they lost. They didn't really lose, but you don't need history, Mike, right now. And I think
the gas attacks were pretty bad as well.
Yeah, but a lot of people were doing that. But like the reason, like Germany, like the whole reason, I'll do the quick version. The whole thing with Germany is that they surrendered the war when they didn't really lose, and that's why World War II happens later on, because they were pumped up and propaganda.
Yeah,
propaganda works, people.
Too much of a foothold to really actually have lost. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's why World War II happened, and they get blamed with all the debt, and they get blamed for everything that happened. They're made to pay all this. They're made to suffer for something that they didn't even start, and they just join it, and that caused so many problems. But I like
in World War I. Everyone, stop tweeting at him. Not World War II.
Well, World War One and Two are very like World War Two is a symptom of World War One. You just get a different dictator who uses what happened to rally up people to fight, and it's more racist. Where World War One was all about, well, we want a war. Like they really wanted to fight, and I think that's something that's so interesting. Mm-hmm. So in this game, when you go to the amusement factory, I like how you see skeletons that are building weapons for the German army, and like how Elizabeth Bartley is helping make this happen so the war keeps going because they need the death in order to resurrect Dracula. And I love that. I that little touch of how she's helping make Germany this powerhouse during the war kind of made me smile inside. Like, oh, hey, they know what they're talking about a little bit.
But you only are there for like a second. It's like the easiest part in the game.
That level's hard.
See, okay, so this is a thing I can give people advice for with Castlevania and Contra as well, and lots of Konami games. A lot of times, people lose in these games because they're scared. In 90% of Konami levels, if you just press forward, you make it through about 3/4 of the level without getting hit.
I mean, I didn't have much problem because I went save, load, but I just don't care for that. I thought level was a little challenging. I'm
telling you, it's this thing where it's like it's challenging when you actually play their game. It's the game designers tricking you, and like it's been a lot of Contra to figure out. Like literally, just press forward and press jump and shoot every once in a while, and you make it through about 3/4 of most run and gun levels, like easy peasy, until something challenging happens. If you stop in a Konami game, that's when you're dead meat. Because
no, I agree with you on that one.
Speed running is like a thing in Konami games because you really can get like a clip going, and it's like it's way easier once you know the pattern. Like especially Contra, where you have to play over and over and over again the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, this game I didn't. But also, the munition is the only level that has like all the gears and everything that's very famous Castlevania, which I thought was cool too. They found a way to slip it in without doing a clockwork level for the 10th time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
But didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like one, but at least it isn't. Like, you are still jumping on gears, sure, but you're not in a tower, you're in a factory, so I don't know, I just liked it. But yeah, I like everything about this game, honestly. I love the fact that you go to Greece in one level, and everything's flooded for some reason. You go up the frickin' Leaning Tower of Pisa in this game, while the tower is moving, and love that level.
It's like the giantest Leaning Tower of Pisa, too. It's like 90 miles high.
Not real, but I mean, and there's no. It's just awesome. I hate that boss.
That boss is awful.
Passion, but I love the level.
That boss was incredibly easy with the guide. Like that was the experience I wanted with this. I wanted to cheat. I wanted to use save states. I wanted a guide. I wanted someone to tell me how to do it. Yeah. And like for me, it's just so interesting to like come at this not being good at Castlevania games, but being like used to the tedium and being like, oh, I'll just let someone tell me what to do. Like I don't care, whatever. Who cares? I have no pride.
I really hate that gear boss too that we were talking about earlier. Oh, I hated that guy. That was the worst for me.
Yeah, again, the guide tells you exactly how to do it, which is like for me, like Castlevania is hard, not because the actual motions are hard. There's very few levels where the motions are hard. It's mostly about like figuring out what you have to do, right? Like I recently heard someone describe Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. They're like, it's the reason it was so popular amongst gamers is because it's not really a boxing game. It's more akin to like a Star Fox boss or an R-type boss with like just having tentacles and things like that. That it's about moving side to side and doing all those different things. And like you have to figure out the puzzle of how to beat it. Yeah. And I thought that was a brilliant comparison because it's like, that's the fun of Castlevania games is figuring it out. And once I started knowing I was going to try an emulator and save states and a guide, I was like slumming it. I was like, I'll watch a playthrough. I don't care. I'm just living it up. I mean, I'll watch a video and copy it or whatever. I don't care anymore. And it did make it like a different experience, but I definitely didn't get as much game stimulation as you guys.
I mean, I save stated, so I don't know how much simulation I was getting, but I beat it twice, and I was happy.
Oh, I save stated too. I save stated. I did it all. Whatever.
At one point, I used to have the mindset where if I'm save stated, I'm cheating myself. So I would try to play the game like, the legitly in quotations. And when I realized I would never finish games, I'm like, screw this shit. I enjoyed. Who cares? Like, I remember I had that confliction a while ago, and I'm like, and now I enjoy games a lot more since then.
I will save in this game. I will usually save state the way you're talking about, where save state and like just at if I don't want to type in a password or just like at a hard level to practice.
I did every hit.
I would walk 5 feet and save state.
Same.
I would be one enemy and save state.
I did try Super Mario World 2 years ago, or before I started this podcast, where I would only use save states to cut down on the loading times. mostly. Like I would save state before I started a level and stuff like that. So I would still be playing the game legit, but I would be cutting down all like the waiting and everything. I just kept going, so much faster pace. But ever since this podcast, fuck that. That's over with. I don't have time.
So are you super? I have to keep going on this World War I thing to ask you questions. So like, do you know of like Frank Franzetta and heavy metal? Were those like, or like Ralph Bakshi? Were those any guys that would have made their way into your life in the world of art?
I know of them, but no, I was never into heavy metal music until I like Linkin Park.
Well, no, not heavy metal. Heavy Metal the magazine.
Oh no, I never even heard of it. I've heard of it, but I never had anything to do with it.
Heavy Metal magazine was big at this time, and there were a lot of comics in it. It's it's R-rated.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. No, I never had any. The only reason I even know it exists is because of other podcasts that I listen to that have mentioned it.
You get a kick out of it because World War I sort of ghost skeleton adventures is like a big theme, especially in 90s heavy metal, and it's still sort of because of that carries to this day. Frank Franzetta, who would do neoclassical style paintings, but
Conan, right?
Conan, yeah.
Okay, that's how I know that name.
And then Ralph Bakshi was the guy that did the Lord of the Rings animated, but he was another heavy metal guy. He did Fire and Ice. Like, there's these really cool movies, and from this era, especially a lot of animation, which is my background where it comes from, a lot about World War I skeleton ghost zombie things. It's a big theme, which it's fitting. It's, the idea of being half alive was a trench mentality. And, I'm sure there's some people, if they were alive in World War I, would see some of these comics and be like, no, I and a lot of my friends did lose noses. This is weird that you have people who are deformed and kind of reticent of us, but it's a commentary for sure on the brutality of the war. But
World War I was very bad.
There's some cool, okay, enough bumming out. There's some cool ish with zombies, and it's pretty rad in wearing GI uniforms. It's kind of cool. I would check it out.
I'm gonna have to look that up then, because I'm more into World War II stuff and World War I fiction, but in what I've experienced, I never experienced as much about World War I. Now I see what you mean, though. Plus, in history books, they don't go in much detail about World War I as they should. But that's neither here nor there. Is it here? Is it there? I can go. I can get on history rants when the show goes there, because I just love certain parts of history a lot. But so I did love that this game pulls you around. Like one of the levels, you go to France, and there's a part where you walk by a fountain, you're walking around in blue water, and all of a sudden everything turns red, and it's you're in a blood fountain, and you start fighting red skeletons. I really like that part. That part really stuck with me. I thought that was just so damn cool.
I love that. And I felt that was simple sort of game horror. It didn't look very realistic, but it did scare me. I like that part. A big thing I like about that level that I really like about that Castlevania as well is the holy water is a good weapon in this game. And especially in that level, the holy water helps a lot. It's a weapon where you sort of throw it and these flames come out. It's normal, a big help.
But co-host Mike, you would probably know this better than I do. Is this the first game with item crush?
It depends on when Rondo came out in Japan. It would have been pretty close.
What's item crush?
It's where you use one of the sub-weapons, but it takes more gems. It's more powerful to use it, which I didn't even know was in this game until I was watching Long Play. So that's fun.
Oh, I found it right away by accident.
It is worth noting there's only 3 sub-weapons in this game. You got the axe, the holy water, and the boomerang, which is not the cross, just a boomerang.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like all the weapons. I like the upgrade to the spears. I like them better than a lot of the other games. I was big into the look of the flaming spear, if you could get it. That was pretty dope.
1993 was Rondo of Blood, by the way. So okay, this wasn't the first. This is the first one that we got, though.
True.
We didn't get Rondo of Blood until later.
PSP.
We did. Yeah, 2007. Okay.
See, this is where history is important. This is weird.
I know Castlevania quite well because I have watched a lot about, and I've been entrenched in the series since the first. I want to say probably Castlevania 3. A friend of mine had it, and that's what really got me into the series. And ever since then, I've been very big into it, and I've always just been. I haven't always played them because I can't play the original ones, but I always have been still engrossed in the series, and I love the fiction of it.
For moral reasons, you can't play the original ones? Why?
No, I just suck. I just suck at them. I can pick up that controller. I have no qualms about fighting death and Dracula. I hit buttons and I die, so it doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
That's all. There's no moral. I know what you mean, but no, I'm not. That's not me.
As someone who's into Castlevania, all 3 of us, I had an experience at an arcade before COVID. That was awesome.
Before COVID.
It was.
I'm sorry, I know what is that? Times.
Yes, I knew that name long ago. Okay, so it was. Did you know there is a Castlevania arcade game?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Haunted Castle.
I happened upon a cabinet. It was just in Japanese. I went inside, didn't really know what it was, went inside, picked up a sort of PlayStation VR type controller, and I was told to start whipping. And then I started whipping, vampires and goobs and ghosts and all those different things. And I was like, man, that was good. And I go on the outside, and I have a photo of me with the Castlevania cabinet where you really do whip things. And it's a pretty fun cabinet that, while we're on the topic of things we didn't get in America, pretty rad. A pretty rad arcade game that is worth mentioning if you're going to look up things that are not as common or that you might not have known about in the world of Castlevania.
I have always someday want to play it. It did. I want to say it got re-released in other places like WiiWare maybe. I don't think I'm pulling my leg. But it's a remake of Castlevania 1 on arcade with Simon Belmont, but it's different because he captures his girlfriend or wife or something. But yeah.
I mean, I got to come back because I played those 3D Castlevanias too, which are, I think, not underrated, but overly lampooned, in my opinion.
Oh, Legacy of Darkness and Castlevania 64. Yeah, they're not. They're bad, but they're not as terrible. They just did not do the 3D action the way like Super Mario 64 did, and people give it a lot of hate.
Yeah, they give it a lot of hate for no reason, and it's like I think if you are not entrenched in that era and you just go back and play it, it's a pretty rad game.
You have to know what you're doing. Like because I've watched playthroughs of those games multiple times because I love Castlevania, and it doesn't seem as bad as people say.
Yeah, have you ever put hands on a hard body for that game?
I played 10 minutes of the Castlevania 64. Does that count?
No, because
Okay,
N64 is garbage. I do think that's a garbage system. I would never touch an N64. But for Xbox, which is a real system.
You're talking about
Lords of Shadow?
Yes. Also, my mind just went. I love Lords of Shadow 1. That game is going to be on the show.
Yeah. I got to come back, and we got to shout about World War I more.
We're on that one. But yeah, that's definitely going to be on the show someday, because I really want to replay it.
It's a good game.
I'm watching footage of this arcade game. I had no idea this existed.
You straight up whip. And
it looks awesome.
The best part about it is, like, it's not very good, which actually works to its favor in terms of the controls. So like you really are in there like like slamming your hand. It really like the I don't know if that's purposeful, but the sort of accelerometer kind of makes you be like, die skeletons. It's awesome.
Yep. Mike, it's not a haunted castle, what you were talking about before. It's like an on rails shooter basically, but you have a whip instead.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you're talking about then.
Yeah,
I never heard of.
I will tweet a video of me taking my phone charger out of my bag and pretending to whip in slow motion in front of it because I was so psyched on it.
That's pretty cool looking.
I'll take it. I'm interested because now I realize I was wrong about what I was talking about. I'm much more excited.
Yeah, it's COVID, so like whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, all hope and despair is gone. But like, yeah, like it's good. It's not. Don't be like, oh man, I never got to live life and go out and play this stupid Castlevania game. But if you see it in the times when it's healthy and safe, it's not even worth. It's good in terms of being surprised, but it's not even worth like stopping eating hot French fries if you see it. If the choice is between like a slightly hot meal and this game, definitely go slightly hot meal. But if you otherwise, like, play it. It's pretty good.
Eat your meal and watch the demo reel. You'll get the same experience.
And just swing your arms around.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. You have my attention.
For which, the French fries or the game?
Yeah. I do love me some Castlevania, so I do like these type of games. So I'm definitely interested now.
Yeah.
I do love me some French fries.
Yeah. See, that's the problem, isn't it?
I'm not a big French fry person unless I get them the right place. Like I was when I was in Chicago and we were by Wrigley Field and we were hungry and we stopped and I went to McDonald's. I couldn't figure out how to order because I wanted a pop. Because there were no people and they had like little machines. I said, fuck it. I walked out and then I went over to this restaurant and had really good French fries, like garlic-y stuff on them. And that was, otherwise that was great. There's my weird rant that I wasn't expecting.
I'm suspicious of these French fry tastes. I need to hear, like, honestly, for me, this is my gold right now. Like, I want to talk all about your French fry taste and what's going on there and what you actually want from it. Is it the crispiness? What is it? Is it the thickness you don't like?
I think a lot of it was just the hungerness played a big part in this, and I remember it. I'm not
so
sure.
It was only really good because you were super hungry. Yeah. See,
I think so.
For us French fry eaters, we mostly eat them because we're bored. So, like, I don't know if you're going to be a part of the community in the right way. Like, I don't ever need to eat French fries, but do I need to eat, like, a French fries bowl the size of my head? Like, yes, because I'm bored and not hungry.
I'm never that bored.
Yeah. I'm always that's the secret. I'm always eating French fries.
Hey, you just got to do multiple. I was going to say you got to do multiple podcasts, but you already do multiple podcasts. So
yeah. Are you kidding? This could be hack thought. I could talk about French fries. I am not bored at all. I could talk about French fries and how they are unnecessary, but the best food ever for, I'd say, at least 9 hours, and not bore myself. I might bore the listeners, but I'm not going to bore myself. I could do this for a while. Are you bored, listener? Are you eating French fries?
A couple more things that we should mention about Castlevania, some of the levels that I wanted. Like, one, you do fight a moth boss, which the only reason I want to mention this because when you first see this boss in France, it's a woman, and you hit her a few times, and then she turns into a giant moth, and I like that. I thought that was cool.
Didn't get there.
It's very different. It's unexpected.
I have never really played this. Like, I had seen this game before, and I had seen videos of it and I've seen friends play, but this is my first time ever actually going through it. Like, also you fight death in this game in the final level, but this has got to be the weirdest death fight in the entire Castlevania series.
Yeah, he throws a bunch of tarot cards at you.
Yeah, and then you just fight old bosses, or you get a bunch of vampire meat, as Mike put it earlier.
Yeah.
Because he just spits meat at you.
Yeah, so how does it work? I didn't see this one.
It reminded me of Gunstar Heroes of the board game level, where it kind of warps you in to fight other things every now and then.
Death comes up. He spins a bunch of cards around you. You hit a card, pick any card, and then you end up fighting different bosses from previous in the game that have less health. And after you beat the boss, he spins more cards, and then you keep picking different cards. And and if you're playing the easier difficulties like I was, some of the cards will give you health to fill up your health. Also, there's also mini bosses that are only on hard difficulties, like that I didn't fight. Like Frankenstein's monster is in this game, but I didn't fight him because I played on a lower difficulty.
Huh.
Oh wait! You mean in the last level? Because you fight Frankenstein in normal.
No,
in a different
level.
Oh, okay.
But he's not. He wasn't on easy. When I played on easy, I never fought him.
That sounds eerily similar to King Dice in Cuphead. What you're describing with death.
It's really annoying with death. And then after that, after you do the card thing, then you have to fight him. But he's really simple. It is not a hard death fight.
Because I wonder if it's a reference in Cuphead. Because with King Dice, you are playing a roulette wheel, and then it just like you kind of warp into different levels, and then eventually, if you hit the right board piece, he just starts fighting you, and it's really jarring. I'm wondering if it's like if there's some specific references to this Sega Genesis Castlevania.
It might just be a Japanese thing that they tap into every now and then.
We're not knowing what the original source is for this. Moths are sort of creatures of the night, aren't they? They are a little bit I don't know why there's not moth and vampire association more.
It's a good question.
Doesn't oh man, well, who's the assistant? Doesn't Renfield eat moths? I think he eats moths or flies. I can't remember in the original Dracula.
Oh, I have no idea. I never read the book or seen the movie or anything.
Oh, read the book. Every movie about Dracula is garbage. Don't believe anyone. Read the book and then watch Blade. Those are the only things we're doing.
Oh, funny you should mention Blade. That's going to be on the show soon. We did an episode about it.
Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is going to be on this show?
No. But we talked about the movie.
Yeah, I love those movies. I think they're awesome. Are you guys not hyped on Blade?
I like Blade 1.
Yeah.
I like all three, actually.
I've only seen
You like all three? Me too. First, what's his name? Deadpool appearance in the Marvel universe. That's his first foray into the world of Marvel.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah. That's I love the idea of, they introduced the idea of like vampires being parasitic animals that would have like unhinged jaws. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I might have different opinions that you'll hear about eventually about Blade if you listen to that episode, but it's still good.
It's still pretty rad. Oh.
That was a sound.
I just, what was that? That was Blade.
That's what happens. We start talking about Blade, things happen. All right. Trying to think anything else we should. In the final Dracula fight in this game, because of course, as you get to the end of the game, Dracula does get resurrected. Well, you fight Elizabeth Bartley, which is actually different depending on what difficulty you're playing on. The way I fought her on easy, she turns into Medusa, and then I killed her. But if you fight on normal or expert, she turns into Medusa, you kill her, and then she turns into herself and flies around. You got to fight her some more.
This is the most Medusa-less game now that you mention it.
There's Medusa heads, but there's not a whole lot of them, which I'm not complaining.
Me neither. Although, like now when I play other Castlevania games, it's like I've mastered it, and so sometimes I'm kind of like, oh, I'd rather have a Medusa head right now, because like I think the fear of them is now. Yeah, no, everyone hates them. They're the worst enemy. It's so amazing how game designers work. It's like, what's the most dreaded enemy in games? One that goes like in a little up and down motion gently across the screen. That's the scourge of the video game world. Fear of all gamers.
Well, Ninja Gaiden, those stupid birds.
Do you know I don't have enough time to be upset about Ninja Gaiden? I've been playing Castlevania for 6 years. I'm not even up to that yet. You know what I mean? I can't yet. I don't. It's like how I pretend there's no second ending to Ghosts and Goblins. Like that's it. There's not a second play. Yeah, I can't. I just pretend Ninja Gaiden doesn't exist, and I'm like, I played all the hard video games. I'm just done with it. Like, why?
Ghosts and Goblins should not have had that second part. That was completely stupid.
And so does Ghouls and Ghosts, speaking of the Genesis.
They all do.
Yeah, why?
I don't know
why. I don't get it. Ghouls and Ghosts, by the way, I'll put that up there in terms of games we're talking about. Way better for the Genesis, Ghouls and Ghosts, than Super Ghosts and Goblins, which is unplayable in my opinion.
Not worth Rewind on the Switch.
Well, okay, here's the thing. It's not about Rewind. It's about emulation. That game has so much slowdown. I don't understand how people play it. And it's like the same type of amount of enemies on the screen on the Genesis, almost no slowdown. So it's like, I'm fine with it being hard. It's like, why would I play a game with that much slowdown is my whole issue. It's like, fair. It's just so painful. Like, I don't want to watch it. It's like playing like a PlayStation 1 game that doesn't work. It's like, no, I'm fine with the graphics. It doesn't work, though. Like, I'm okay with the old graphics. It just doesn't work. Okay? Fix it, Subway sandwiches. That's what I assume is responsible for those sorts of things.
Subway sandwiches made out of cake and hot bread.
Yoga mats, right?
I mean, I like the Dracula fight. I like how the first part of the Dracula fight is like the old style Dracula fight where he just you jump, you hit him in the face, he shoots out fireballs or some kind of projectile, and then it keeps going like that. I thought that was really cool. I mean, the second phase where he looks like a wannabe Death and flies around made absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, that definitely fell out of left field.
But I'll take it. And then third form where he turns like a freaking demon that looks like, as I was watching a YouTube video and the guys called him Zombor from Chrono Trigger. You're not wrong, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Not wrong.
Got a face in the crotch and everything.
I like Zombor a lot, by the way.
What's with the face in the crotch? That's like a thing in a lot of different Japanese games with devils and stuff.
You know, maybe they had a fear. Like I know that like the reason why Frieza is the way that Frieza is because at the time the guy was kind of like scared of transsexual, and that's what has a part to do with why Frieza looks like the way Frieza is.
Wow, weird.
I'm not sure if I'm right, but that's what I've heard the rumor. And I mean, again, at the time that Dragon Ball would have came out, where people would not have been, were still new to that and wouldn't have, people still are not okay with it when they should be. So, I mean, that's what I've heard. So, I mean, it could be something just different of a different culture where, we're just not to them, having a mouth and face where your crotch is like a demon like thing. I don't know. It's weird.
Anything weird like that, I just assume it's H.R. Geiger's fault.
It's probably his fault in Subway sandwiches, is what I assume.
H.R. Geiger.
H.R. Geiger from the Aliens.
Does not compute.
He's the guy that does all the in Alien and Aliens and Aliens.
Oh, he's like a costume designer or something?
He's one of the weird people in Hollywood that is just like an artist and almost did nothing on the movie, but sort of is like an art director in terms of like, here's a creepy painting I've done, make your whole movie fit this.
If there's something phallic in a horror movie, it's probably him.
Yeah, it's a lot of ribs. It's a lot of like extended mandibles and stuff like that. That's deformed sort of human anatomy is his thing. I don't even see two-faced demons Japan. Don't search face crotch Japan.
I'm not going to.
But like even like two-faced demon, two-faced devil, like nothing. It's just like two devil faces. It's one of them. Just like the idea that there are two devil faces.
It's also not a super hard boss fight. Like I've done a lot of Dracula fights over my years, and this one wasn't too bad. Like it's not. He jumps around a bunch, shoot fireballs at you, but it's pretty doable. Even though it has three forms, it's still I would say doable. I mean, I use save state, so I can't talk too much, but.
It's crazy to me that you've played multiple Dracula bosses and you think you're bad at the game. Like, that's insane to me. It's a totally different experience.
When I'm saying I've did multiple Symphony of Night, Portrait of Ruin, Area of Sorrow, Circle of Moon, it's all the Igarashi ones that, are RPGs where I was able to do it. Like, Portrait of Ruin, you fight Death and Dracula at the same time. Fuck, that's hard. Like, that I did without save states. Woo, that was hard.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression all I've done is play the unpleasant Castlevanias, and like maybe I should play ones that are like good, like fun that you can play more than one level.
And Game Boy Advance on the 6 that came out after that are all RPG Metrovania ones, and they are amazing.
There are definitely people that prefer this style of Castlevania though over the newer ones.
Yeah, like addicts. Like I am one of them, and I'm sick in the head. There's nothing good about it. I prefer it because it's like I have a strange compulsion to play it. I only prefer it because it's all I know. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want that. I have Symphony of the Night on
I think that's called Stockholm Syndrome.
It is. That's totally what it is. That's what happens to Jonathan in the Dracula novels. Is like he's trying to get affinity for me. I'm locked. It's literally Dracula. I've been locked in his castle, and now I love him, and I love being here. Oh.
Yeah, definitely. I would say you can skip Circle Moon, but play Harmony of Dissonance. That is a really good game for Game Boy Advance.
That's one I've never beaten. The only one I've never.
I've got a 3DS. How are those ones? Those are the ones next on my collecting list.
Portrait of Ruin is really good. Dawn of Sorrow is really good. And Order of Ecclesia is supposed to be one of the best ones, but it's hard and the most
it's super hard, but it's good.
Well, this experience has taught me that, those three that you named on the DS are often pirated and put onto 3DS and DS.
Because they won't. Konami really should have just you could re-release them easily on the Switch, on many different things. They don't really even use the dual screens except for maps, but Konami is Konami and won't re-release. I mean, they did that Castlevania collection that we got, but it's kind of a half-ass collection. We should have got more Castlevania games, and we didn't get any of the Igarashi stuff, but I mean, I'm glad Konami did something, that they tried.
Let me ask y'all one question, because I don't know if you've ever said it on the episodes I've listened to, maybe earlier on. I'm sort of newer to the podcast and listening. When you play emulations, what are you holding? What controller or what are you playing with?
A 360
I usually use a wired 360 controller on the PC.
Oh, that's fascinating. I wouldn't have guessed that. I've been playing on a Buffalo SNES reproduction for the PC. So I actually played this Genesis game on a SNES controller.
I have SNES controllers, but I really like the way it feels in my hand with the Xbox wired controller 360. Mm-hmm. So that's why. But I have tried it with the other controllers. It just with the 360 controller, depending on what I'm playing, I can put save states on the trigger. So I like having the more buttons sometimes.
That's so cool. See, this is like a whole other culture that I don't know because of my weird staunch ability to like I just, for work reasons, like in making movies, I got a computer that can handle Steam because of certain things that are boring. But like, I guess it's not boring to your listeners. Essentially, I have 2 graphic cards in my machine now. So if it's lighter work that I'm doing, it doesn't interfere with processing video if I play a game while I'm doing it. So it's like, it's been interesting doing Steam, but I'm new to all of this. And it's interesting to hear the culture of like having the saves. Yeah, like I play on the Wii a lot, the Wii Classic, and you can do the save states straight from the controller. So it's just a whole interesting thing to me. I'm new to it. It's a whole new world.
I love emulation just for the simple fact that so many of these games will never be re-released and never will come back. And I'm not the kind of guy that's going to track down an old copy of something, on eBay and pay some guy $50 to, and pick up old hardware. Like if they want to resell it to me for a couple bucks, I will buy it on Steam for a couple bucks. I just will because I want to support them. But if you're not going to give me that option, I'm not interested.
Castlevania in this game playing it had a special place in my heart. This was like a really interesting experience you guys gave to me because for me, I do collect games and I have a pride in saying that my game collection itself is always in the black, as it were. It's always at neutral. So if I sell an old game, I buy new games or whatever it is, it's always self-sufficient because of my collecting. And Castlevania 4 is one of my sort of prized collector's items. I sold Conker's Bad Fur Day, a terrible game that I don't care about, and I bought a few games and an SNES, very good condition copy of Castlevania 4. So it was like really cool to get to, you guys sort of gave me an experience that I don't think I would have been open to both morally and just experience in life-wise. And I would have never thought buy a bootleg copy of this, see what it's like playing on an emulator. I don't think I would have done that if it wasn't for this podcast.
I'm glad I was able to give you new experience. I've been in emulation ever since I was in middle school. So early 2000s, I want to say, is when I first found out about it. A site called QualityRoms.com that doesn't exist anymore. That was my very first experience in emulation.
It's an interesting moral quandary, especially as an artist. Like I make my money off of people buying my work. So for me, it's something I can't do. But then when you look at it from a historical standpoint, right? Like that's kind of terrible that someone without money can't experience it.
like I know exactly what you're talking about because I mean I don't make my money off my art, but I know what you mean. It's just for me a lot of it has to do with like what stuff is available, and like Eternal Darkness, example, game that we covered a couple weeks ago, is not available in any way except for a GameCube copy, and it's a great game that's never going to get re-released because the company went bankrupt or went out of business, whatever the hell happened to them. Nintendo's not going to re-release it. They don't care. It's not their style of game. And if you want to buy it online, you're looking at paying, over $60, $70 to get a copy of this game. Or trending at $75 right now just for the disc only. Like it's not, and some people won't experience this game, like emulate it because not like if I buy this copy off eBay, not like Nintendo or Silicon Knight's gonna make any money off it. Just some guy who sat on it for the last, so many years.
It's interesting because I'm reticent that I didn't take enough game classes in college. I went to an art college, but like we had a library, and if you needed to play a game, the professor would have to provide you in the few game classes I took. They'd have to provide you with the games, and I wonder why that isn't a service now. Because for movies, that is a thing. Like for historical purposes, you need to let people, students especially, it's sort of not need, but it's sort of known morally in order to educate people. You need to provide them with copies of the art that are for educational purposes, and that isn't a thing in games as much. I'm surprised it isn't because I would subscribe to a library,
I think because games are still in that, like, are they art? Which they are, but it's still that argument that is still being reached to people.
I think the problem is you're not getting enough art scholars into video games. You're getting a lot of video game scholars who have an art background or a film critic background, but you're not getting a lot of people who are like, I study painting, I apply for grants, I have this historical need to preserve stuff. I'm going to get into video games and start an initiative like this to say it's important to preserve games the way they were and have the creators say, to write it down, because that's a crime. It's a crime that we don't understand why when Mario was released, why that's some point
it's really stupid. Like I will it's not something I would have known except for a podcast I listen to, Geekbox. They talk about it every so often. So
yeah, we need that initiative. We need that intellectual snobbery to come into gaming because it's really annoying to me. Like it should be. We should know that stuff. We should be upset about it, not just like that's the internet. Like.
That's why I'm such a big, proponent of emulation. I don't tell people where to go to get emulation, but people ask me, I won't. I help out people because it's like, and the thing I always thought about emulation, the most people are going to emulate or pirate something, they're not going to buy it in the first place. Like they're just going to experience it this way because like I went through a big phase where I was into that world because I didn't have any money. But once I started working again and had more money, I stopped it and bought stuff. I'd rather have stuff in my collection than just because it doesn't mean anything. When you have a hard drive just full of random stuff that you're never going to watch. It has no meaning to you. But when you actually go and own the DVD, own the game, it has so much more meaning on your shelf.
Well, but it's and to me as an artist who was able to pay for film school and all those different things, there's an implication to the idea that only rich people can go to film school because only rich people can have access to a camera, and that has shattered. I would never existed in that world. Growing up, I could have a camera because of phones. You know what I mean? Yes. It's this thing, and so it's like, okay, you want to say that computers and video gaming isn't a barrier to entry for people with less money. It's like, okay, I can't play any of the classic games because they're $900. You don't see that as a problem that I can't go and play. Like they make copies available of like The Godfather at the library,
or just they re-release it multiple times. Like one game before we get off this topic I want to mention is Little Samson for NES. That game goes for like $800, $900, I think, on eBay, and it will never get re-released. The company doesn't exist. It was a late NES title, but it's supposed to be a pretty good game that will be on the show someday. And people can't experience it because of this huge gap that's in there that's really just a collector's piece. The people who buy it, they just put it away and just say, I own it. They're never going to actually play it because why would you want to play something that you just spent $900 on? You want to keep that thing nice and safe. It's
interesting, right? Because I can see the Mona Lisa without going to the Uffizi or wherever it is now. But I can't see Little Samson. You know what I mean? I can see the Mona Lisa on the internet, but I can't, like, there needs to be some line drawn because it's a digital media of like, okay, this is a way you can experience.
And I was wrong about the price. Sorry, it's only $1,600 if you buy it now. Sorry,
well, then why are we whining about poor people? Get it together. Get your $1,600 and buy Little Samson.
Yeah, like I said, it is ridiculously expensive, and there are bids on it. Like there's one on eBay as we're currently talking. 32 bids for $1,125. Like that to me, that's just like that's the thing about like that's why I agree with you about collecting and I think there should be ways for people like that.
But guys, here's the thing: if you're buying a Little Samson copy, make sure it's not shaved, because then it doesn't work. It has no joke.
All right. One quick thing I want to mention about this game before we go on to questions, comments, or memories is the ending of this game. I think it's again a real brief little cutscene where, depending on which character you play as, they both are standing on a rock as they're watching the castle crumble down. I think that's a really cool little scene.
Apparently, you don't get to see the whole thing unless you play on the harder difficulties.
Yep, I saw that when I was watching the video just now. I was like, I don't remember that cutscene.
Like, this is a totally different experience for me too with like hard games. Is I just don't experience story in games the same way. Like, I'm done. Like, that's it. I don't know what happens at the end. It's such a hard game that I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, what I experienced at the end of Mega Man 4 is me running around my apartment, like throwing stuff, celebrating because I beat it. You know what I mean? That's what I experienced. I don't know what happens at the end of that game. I don't.
Wily doesn't die and comes back in the next game.
Oh, great. I'm glad all my hard work was worth it. All right,
I don't remember who the villain... I mean, I'm sure the villain in 5 is Wily again, but I'm sure there's some other fake villain.
It's the fake Proto-Man in that one.
Okay. All right, let's go to questions, comments, and memories. I didn't post this in a lot of groups because it was a week, but I did post in a couple Castlevania groups, and I actually got more response than I expected because people like this game. First, I'm going to start with Overblood, as always. Overblood came out this time. All right, and I actually not asked this question yet this whole episode, or we kind of touched on it. From Ron Hutone. Do you use Trident Boy or Whip Boy?
Trident Boy.
I played as Eric. I was going to go back and play as John. I'm like, nah, once is enough.
You had a week from hell, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who's Eric? Who's John?
John is the guy with the whip.
Okay.
Yeah, John Morris and Eric Lacard.
And
wonderfully imaginative names, guys. I wonder why we never heard of this.
And this one from Blake Howell. I played all the Castlevania games multiple times. However, I didn't play this until last year, and I honestly fell in love with it. I think the level is some of the most unique and diverse, and the moment-to-moment gameplay is great. I also love that you get to pick between multiple characters right away. I find the change they made to the Western version really deplorable, however. There was no reason to change the characters' appearance simply because they were feminine, and the localization is kind of bad, but I love the game. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's talking about Eric, how he did look a little feminine in the East, and when they moved him to the West, they like buffed him up a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Very strange.
This is still a controversy to this day. I'm a big fan of the Chinese pop band, The Nine, and one of their members, Keilu, is from a Chinese pop band simply meant to look androgynous and mostly like boys. They were pitched as the girl band that looks like a K-pop boy band, and it does cause controversy amongst people. It's still all over the world that someone could dress that way. So it's so weird to hear that this was straight up censorship.
Mm-hmm.
And another one from Chris Merveka. The first Castlevania game that I beat from beginning to end, Leaning Tower of Pisa level is the biggest highlight. That level is badass, though. I will say that.
So easy as well, though. I loved it. So cool looking, but so easy.
I wouldn't just jump easy, up. But we can go with that. Sure.
I feel like, am I good at these games? Because I feel like you just jump. You just jump up.
I don't know. I suck at old school games in general. Like I am not good at any old school stuff in general. It's just me.
So I'm sorry I put you through this.
I put myself through this. I saved it. That's okay. But it's just I played old Mega Man games. I was never good at them. Like when I was a kid, I only played RPGs in Super Nintendo. I loved RPGs because I could level and level and level. So I can make things work.
But like, no one's good at them. That's the thing is that like, I'm not good. No one's good at these games. You just lose constantly. My partner cannot watch me play like any of these old games because like I just am constantly losing over and over again. And she literally gets like, she's like, I would hate doing this. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why, but I like it. Like, no one's good at it. You just lose 1,000 times.
It's definitely from that era of this is what you got for Christmas. This is the only game you have to play.
Yeah, so but I was never in that era.
Right,
I'm doing
it
now. I can go and play something better. It's just like you just have to get used to it. I feel like it's like game exercising. It's like, yeah, no one. It's like, oh, I hate exercising. It's like, yeah, join the club. None of us do. Everyone would rather die than be an Olympic champion. Like, no
and we're actually gonna do a little bit change of our format for this part of the episode. I will come back to question, but because we're running low on time for guest mic, we're actually gonna do shelf or box for guest mic and then go back to questions. I know you gotta get going here in a second.
Yeah, obviously shelf.
Okay.
100%. I mean, I have my bootleg copy. It's on my shelf.
I want a copy of this game now. If I don't have one when I dig through my collection, which is at my parents' house, I'm gonna track down a copy of this game because I want a copy.
Can I tell you something, Mike? Other Mike Borg, like if you don't have a copy, mine cost $5. I'm happy to mail mine to you. It's a fake copy. You can have it. No one's going to buy my fake game.
I need the case.
Okay, would you like me to write on a Post-it note, Castlevania, whichever one this is? Draw a little vampire teeth underneath the C.
Oh, and before you leave, Mike, do you want to say where people, again, give a shout out to your podcast?
Yeah, I think that for gamers, #cult.org, like there's been a scourge in the world of comments and the word troll, and a lot of game fans and things like that are getting associated with some really, what we discovered to be a cult on the internet. And like, I think that learning about where these quote unquote trolls are, what they're doing and how they're acting on the internet is something really important to me in playing games and having this as a hobby. And we actually just did an episode about what games you play and how you spend your time on the internet if you listen to #cult podcast. But like, it's really interesting. I think it will make positive people like, Nerds Without Pants and oh man, I love this show. I just love positive gaming. Like it's just nice people. I just like nice people who can play a game and be like, this was fun. So like for fans of this show, I mean, go check it out because I've felt other in the world of gaming because people describe trolls and hateful people on it. And researching this cult in #cult podcast is really liberating to know it isn't like my friends. It isn't like the people that are getting associated with it acting this way on the internet. Now, on the other hand, if you agree with me that socks should never be balled up, and that's ridiculous, then go listen to Hack Thought podcast, which is awesome.
All right, I want to thank you again for coming on, Mike. It was good to have you.
Awesome, guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Well, I'll bring you back on. Bye. All right, and then we'll go back to questions, memories. I know a little bit weird content for us, but we wanted to get that out there before he had to leave to go do some other work. So I do want to. So I'm going to go to the Castlevania Shrine group on Facebook that I shouted out and I gave you some comments. First, I got to say, I'm just surprised that so many people, because I never experienced this game until so many years later, that a lot of people played. I mean, I guess I'm thinking of like a small world. Like when I feel like I was very into games, and maybe I wasn't as much as I thought. But first one from Brittany Stewart. It's one of my all-time favorite games from the franchise and was an important part of my childhood. I personally feel it has one of the best OSTs, and I've always loved the level design and how the stages took you through different parts of Europe. I always played as Eric because getting used to the Alucard spear was a fun change from the usual vampire killer whip. I agree with her.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't know. I thought either character was fine. Did you have a preference to one or the other? I mean, I know you only play as a card, but is that who you played?
I would imagine John plays just like every other Belmont, so it was a nice change of pace.
Okay. Yeah, he does. From Colin Prosick, good. There's some great level designs. Also, the pike weapon was my favorite. Well, it's a good weapon. Mm-hmm. And from Jennifer Powell, Bloodlines is one of my favorite games in the franchise. The music is great, levels are great, and I was always a fan of being able to play as Eric. I've always thought Bloodlines is very underrated. Lots of great memories here. It is underrated. I feel like this is one of the more unknown titles because it wasn't released besides in Genesis back in the day. It never came out anywhere else. It didn't come out until, God, what year was the anniversary collection?
So recent.
I had it pulled up, but I don't anymore.
2018, 2019?
It's very recent. I just can't remember when. And the internet is failing me at the moment. Or my failing the internet, I don't know which one that is. So, that doesn't matter here. All right. And then from the other group that I also posted in, from Castlevania Retro Gamers, actually got a lot. I said this game is underrated. Dave G said it's not underrated. The game is lit. You're not wrong, sir. From Jack Crowell, it's my favorite classic Vania-style entry. Here's a good one. William Maddock. Bought this the day it came out at Funkoland. Funkoland. Loved this game, and now I play it on the Castlevania collection on my Nintendo Switch. How did you... Oh, you played it. I was going to say, did you play this on the Switch, Mike? Then I remember. You play it the right way.
Yeah, there's no... I'm sure I could beat it eventually, but given our time constraints, there's no way I was going to do it.
Given your week from... Yeah.
Being almost dead or whatever.
Hey, it's perfect for a Castlevania game. You got to almost feel like Dracula. Almost die and come back alive.
That's fair.
You didn't seem as amused at that joke as I was just now in my head. And from Rob... Josti, it really is a fun and smooth playing Vania. What I don't get is all the love for the soundtrack, however. Personally, I find it cheesy and the sound effects are pretty bad too. I played the music on for this game. I didn't really pay attention because, that's me.
The only standout track was when after you beat Elizabeth and you go to the next screen and Simon's theme starts playing from Super Castlevania 4.
That was cool.
So good.
That did get me kind of like, even though I've never beat Castlevania 4.
It's a hard one too.
I tried before we started the podcast. I was trying to play it legitly, and I couldn't finish it. And we'll play it for a mini probably for the show someday.
I want to say it's one of the ones on the Switch. So rewind.
Yeah. Okay. You have my attention. From Timothy Andrews, first game I ever bought with my own money. It was $28 at a mom and pop retro kiosk in the mall in '95. I was 13. Good time. I like that.
I miss that kind of stuff. Just walking down and seeing just random used games.
I think it's going to change because I think after GameStop dies, something will take its place, and you'll see. I mean, even though we're going very digital, I think we're still going to be physical media off and on for a while. It's not as much to support an entire company like GameStop.
Right. It's going to be more used game focused since that's what's out there right now.
And from last question I'm going to read from Othanio Munoz. This is by far my favorite game of the 16-bit era. It's gory, creepy, action-packed, and brutal. I'm happy that this is somebody's favorite game from that era. Unfortunately, mine is, tied up. But I'm happy that somebody really enjoyed this game that much. Makes me feel good.
So how many of these people that say they love this game over all their Castlevanias only had a Genesis and not a Super Nintendo?
I didn't ask that question. But compared to okay, I never played Rondo of Blood. I will someday. I have never really played Dracula X very far. I will someday. But I have played Castlevania 4, and I like this game more than Castlevania 4, personally.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also like World War I a lot, so it helps that it's set in that time zone, and I thought it was so creative. That plays a big part in my decision with this game. All right, I think we should go back to Shelf or Box. If we said earlier, our guest Mike did put this on the shelf, but now it's time for the other two Mikes to decide what they're going to do with it. And Michael Hughes, since this was your pick, why don't you go first?
Oh, man. So I love Castlevania, but I'm one of those, I'm part of the problem. I only like the Igavania ones. So from Symphony on, I played at least some of all the classic style Castlevanias, but they're just too hard as nails for me. So I will take Symphony of the Night over something like this any day, so it's got to go in the box.
Oh, that's not what I expected. I'm actually going to put this on the shelf because I saved state and I cheated, sure, but I had fun. I had a really good time playing this, and I beat it. I even played it twice. I didn't have to, but I'm I want to play with each character. I mean, it helped that I was able to beat this in one sitting before work, but hey, it's going on the shelf, and I'm really glad you picked it because I have played through this and seen parts of it. I never actually really sat down and played with it, and thanks to you, I now beat this game.
Yeah, so. It's fun, but I like leveling up and getting equipment.
Same.
Wandering on giant maps and whatnot.
I don't like the classic Vanias as much, but I do. I mean, we'll play them for the show, of course, because I want to. But yeah, I'm a much bigger fan of the Igarashi Metrovania games.
We got one of those coming up.
Yes, we do. Actually, not that far away. But I also do want to say that the sequel to this game, Portrait of Ruin, is really fucking good.
It's my second favorite Castlevania game.
Okay, it's definitely going to be on the show eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
That takes place during World War II, and we had to do this one first because when we do cover Portrait of Ruin someday, we will reference the hell out of this one. So
yeah, it was almost on next season.
I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, it's a good lineup though that we got.
All right, and I think Mike, why don't you introduce what we're talking about next week because it's your pick again.
We're talking about that other EA published trilogy that they won't remaster or re-release, Dead Space.
The first one. That's gonna be yeah. So getting some good Spooktober stuff coming out for you guys. And mentioning Blade, I'm pretty sure Blade will... okay, I'm more than pretty sure Blade will be the episode that comes out after this for you guys to enjoy the movie episode. So look forward to that.
Enjoying quotation marks.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed editing it too. All right. I think that about wraps up everything we need to say on this episode for tonight. And I want to thank Mike for coming back from the dead to join us again after Bloodman 2 tried to kill you.
Wouldn't miss it.
Were you upset that you... Were you upset you missed Blood Omen 2?
Oh, yeah. We're going to give my personal interview. No, I was not upset. Granted, I would have much rather played Blood Omen 2 than be in the hospital for 6 days, but yeah, that game... It was fun at first, but it starts to grind real quick.
Oh yeah, you can hear me and Julian go on and on about it for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have an episode to listen to that doesn't have me on it.
Yeah, I know. All right. And I also want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, we do tons more game episodes. We have 90 other episodes plus comics, movies. So definitely check that out. We're currently still going through the MCU, even though I haven't published one this month due to Spooktober. So definitely check out Iron Man 3 was the last one released. And in November, we got 2 more coming out for you. So be excited for those. Why don't you catch up if you haven't listened to the MCU episode where we covered through the rest of the movie movies somewhere in our giant catalog. Our intro, and plus I want to give an awesome shout out to our awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Bobby, aka Mike Stoney from his EP Bite the Bullet. The song is the Cool Kid Squad. Definitely check him out. There'll be a link in the show notes. There'll also be a link in the show notes to Mike Fallek's both his podcasts. Definitely check him out if you enjoyed listening to him. I can't remember what the hell they were called just now because my brain just farted, but you'll see a link in the show note. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, where I'm constantly posting new images of what's coming up with the show whenever a new episode get released, and also images of the upcoming game. Get you excited for what we're doing. All right, and I think that's all that I need to say for tonight. I want to thank everyone for listening. We will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.